welcome back. I've got Casey Jacox on the line. How are you, sir?
Michael, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Great to have you on the show. Well, you've got a lot going on. You've got a podcast, new book, life, leadership, relationships, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's dive in. So let's talk about your book. I know it was something that was a long time coming for you, and you got it out, and let's dive into that and what it touches on.
Yeah, it's called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. It's an idea that came to me about 9 years ago, and it really resonated around me leading a team. And the team was focused on winning every single deal and every single transaction. And I realized that's not the way to do things. And it kind of helped spun out an idea that I had in my head about if we win people, there's going to be many deals to come. But if we try to win a transaction, we're going to lose people. So I just thought more about it, and I wanted to write the book, but not when I was still working. And so I took, after a 20-year run with an amazing company called Kforce, I took a couple months off and then really focused on writing. And for 4 or 5 months, I just spent hours every day focused on getting content out. And my goal of it, I really wrote the book for 4 reasons. One, to help shape the mind of a 20-year-old who's just entering the business world. I wrote the book for a business leader who's reading the book that might say, man, this really resonates with me. I want my sellers more relationship focused, and I'm going to have I want them to follow this because it's obviously worked from a guy who's a #1 rep at a company for 10 years. And this isn't stuff I made up. And the other 2 areas is helping someone who's maybe 5 years into their career or older, just get unstuck and remind them of the key fundamentals that are there for a reason. And then lastly, I think one of the biggest gaps I see in universities around the world is just a lack of students who enter the workforce with really polished emotional intelligence skills. And I'm already talking to many colleges around the United States around making the book a part of like a recommended reading in the School of Businesses, and just teaching core fundamentals that this automated technical software world these kids live in. Sometimes the old school ways of the power of the golden rule, power of showing up on time, the power of documenting, the power of checking your ego at the door, the power of let's actually practice and role play this conversation before I go embarrass myself in front of the client. And then running them, you're going to have patience. It's not going to happen overnight. If it does, you're lucky. But just realize that this sprint of a business career is not a sprint. It's a marathon. You got to just take your time and just slowly win people each day. And that's really what I focus on, and it helped me. So I want to share that message with others.
It's a timely message and important because, with especially the new grads, they're full of energy. They've got all this knowledge that they've gained over the last few years, and they're ready to take on the world and make it different than it is now. And then reality hits, and they realize, wait a minute, all the things that I learned in academia isn't necessarily translating to what's actually going on right now. And oftentimes it just boils down to relationships and learning how to work with people and communicate with them in a way that they want to be communicated to, and also seek to understand where they're coming from on things, because oftentimes in sales you have a product or service that truly and honestly is going to benefit the client. But if the client doesn't see that, then you have to figure out a way to grow the relationship where the know, like, and trust factor can kick in, and then they're willing to listen to you. Because if you come in, kick down the doors and this is the greatest product ever, well, we've all heard it's the greatest product ever, and unfortunately many of us have been burned by that product, and it actually wasn't. But
Right.
establishing that relationship first and making sure that that's good, and it takes time. You said the patience thing is a huge thing, and that's something that I know a lot of generations, not just the younger ones, but even when I was fresh out of school, patience wasn't exactly something I thought I would ever discover, but I did. But at the end of the day, you end up figuring out, okay, this is a long game, and you have to implement this right away. Just even with launching your own business, it's not something where, for the majority of us, it's not going to be an instant success. It's going to be a 5, 10, 15-year overnight success. And it's just going to take time, and you have to put in the effort and hone your craft, figure out who you need to communicate with and how to communicate with them. And when you do that from a place of having a win-win type of attitude when you engage in negotiations or conversations with people, makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, you hit on something that I'm passionate about. Well, two things. One of my mentors in my career talked to me about a great way to ask questions, and we call it the TED-based philosophy, which is tell me, explain, describe. And any seller that's working with any customer, no matter how great you think you are or how great you think your product is, if you don't ask great questions of value that makes the customer realize the problem that he or she might have, or that they're about to have, or that you've already solved for another customer, they don't want to. They don't. Just like the old Teddy Roosevelt, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You have to show them that you care. And right now with COVID, and empathy is a very important skill set that all business development people need to be focusing on. And as I think about the graduates, some of them might be thinking, "Oh my God, this is horrible! I just graduated and I got no job." But it's actually a blessing, and they're going to be thankful for it in 10 years. And they're going to be like, "I started in like one of the worst times ever." But look at the resiliency and grit you're building right now, and the fight you're going to have to get to get that next opportunity. And yeah, I started in right out of the Y2K. I went through the .com crash, went through 2008 world financial crisis. I've been a part of some of the biggest deals in our former company's history, and also some of the biggest flops. And you got to stay present, positive each day. And if you have a bad day, the best part about tomorrow, it's a new day, and you got to go out and win someone else tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a great attitude to have, and it's sustainable, and it keeps the waters calm, and sailors, as we all know, they become gifted at their craft not because of smooth waters, but because of choppy waters, and those choppy waters, if you notice, the good sailors, they're calm. Yes, they're okay. This is what you do. Okay, next, that's because they figured it out and they're not panicking. Because if you're panicking and you're just running around trying to figure out what's next, you're going to miss opportunities because you're too busy spinning your head around, and something can be right in front of you and you won't notice it because you're not focused on just, okay, we're going to get through this. Let's fight through this. We've all had bad days, but they're days, and you wash, rinse, repeat. You get up in the morning and you're like, okay, this is going to be a different day. And there have been days that have been absolutely amazing. And you go, wow, that was an amazing day. And you reflect on it. And then for me, I'm a systems kind of guy. So I go, okay, what did I do to make this day successful? What were the ingredients, if I could identify them? Is there any way that I can replicate that in how I interact with things or do things, so I know that this sensation of having a quote-unquote great day can be repeated again and again and again? And some things are easy to maneuver, but other things are just, you get a phone call out of the blue, or you interview somebody on a show and they make an introduction, and all of a sudden that pans off into 5 or 6 different opportunities doing things, and you're like, all because of a conversation. So one of the things I know that you're passionate about as well is in the relationship thing is the conversation style and how to communicate with people, especially if that individual may not be of the same career level as you, or a bigger organization, and especially if you're fresh into the industry and you're like trying to convince this 50-something CEO that your product or service is the best thing they could buy for that organization. So what are some thoughts and experiences around that?
Yeah, I think I like to remind people that we all started someday in some new job. And I think sometimes people forget that no matter if you got 30 years experience, 20 years experience, some at one point in their career, they were the new kid on the block that one day. And so one of the things I always prided myself on, and maybe this is, the quarterback in me from college, I don't mean to be Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite there, but I always liked bringing that vulnerability and humility to the forefront right away, and specifically a newer teammate, because if they were around people with more experience who could quickly think on their feet, that were audible ready with a message, and they were like struggling to say the right thing, sometimes just leading with hey, you know what? Once one day, and talk about an area of failure I had, or talk about something I used to mess up on, and remind them that it's okay to say I don't know. Those are 3 great words that means by you saying I don't know, it shows you have the self-awareness or willingness to learn. And so I try to create those environments. And I think from a seller's perspective, when I would go meet with customers who are way more experienced than me, I think again I use kind of the same mindset of just don't overthink it. Right? Behind this business card, behind that suit, they laugh, they joke, they have friends, they have parents. They might have this facade that they're this perfect person, but I use that as a challenge on how can I bring an authenticity and what research can I do prior to meeting with this person, and what questions can I ask that would break the ice. And I would use my personality to ask the most random question and not have any fear of doing it, because if I don't have a relationship with someone and I'm going to ask something way off out there, maybe something personal, maybe something about whether to call it, whatever it may be, what's the worst that happens? It's not like I already had a customer. I wasn't working with them yet, so I didn't lose anything, but at least I tried, right? At least I tried to differentiate myself by being unique or different than he or she might have not experienced from the everyday seller that's, coming away with the trench coat and firing away questions or firing away all these product solutions they can offer without even understanding their business or what products or what industry trends are going on. And so I made it more personal about them, and just went in with like a no fear attitude, and tried to be my authentic self at any given time.
Many years ago, I worked for a software company, and we often replaced another product that I'm not going to name. And I always, before even going in to start with the demo or things like that, I would ask them, okay, my hunch, correct me if I'm wrong, is this product that you're using is not working for you because you have me in here to demonstrate our product. So what broke on this? What was the experience, and like, how was it sold to you? If you remember how, they presented it, did they fall through on their promises? And I had the conversation, and then tell stories like, oh yeah, we did this one time where we did this demo and we thought this, and then we got in and we realized, we're in the wrong industry altogether. It was like a complete mismatch, blow up. And I mean, we came close to contract signing, and like, wait a minute, this product is not going to work for you. And literally we said, look, this is going to sound weird, but we can't sell you this product because it's not going to work for you. And we ended up getting like a dozen referrals from that company, because we went in there and said, yeah, this isn't it. And we were deep into it. It was like walking down the aisle, and, it was I do, and no way, kind of thing. It was that, but they were so thrilled that we didn't just try to sell them something that wasn't going to work for them. And
It's sad. Sorry to interrupt you. I was going to say it's sad that the state of the world that you get praised for being honest and telling someone you can't help them. And I give a couple examples of that, exactly what you talked about, in my book around. It's funny, when my son was 7, and I talked the very first pages, I tell the story, but he asked me, Dad, what do you do for a living? What's your job? And I couldn't say, well, buddy, Daddy's in the human capital space, and I provide staff augmentation to Fortune 500 companies who are looking to really solve technological problems, blah, 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 blah. He's like, what the hell does that mean, Dad? So I just dumbed it down and said, buddy, I'll explain it later, but in those simplistic terms from a 7-year-old that I think sometimes we as adults can learn as well, as I make friends for a living. And when a friend needs help, what am I going to do? He said, we're going to help them, Dad. I said, exactly. And so it's in my job, my friends pay me money to help them. Now, what happens if a friend said he wanted me to help him, but I couldn't help him? What should I do? He said, well, you should tell him you can't help him and try to find a different friend. I said, that's exactly what I do. And when I do that, the number of friends, you think I have more friends or less friends? He said, well, probably more friends. And so I used to tell that story when I would speak or coach folks. And I almost got more inspiration from my own story, as silly as that sounds, because it's a reminder that, and again, back to kind of the process of my book, like these are reminders and things that we always need to be thinking about to have good relationships. Because companies, and sure you've seen it in your career, Michael, is they'll tell, leaders will say, we got to build more relationships. We have to do this, we have to do that. But there's not that clarity moment of asking, well, how do we do it? And what are the key fundamentals we need to do? And how often we need to do those things? And give me, and provide like real life examples. So you simplify the relationship sales process. Because it's not, I mean, think about the number of LinkedIn requests you get. Like I get more people wanting to fill my coaching pipeline than even know me. So how can you solve a problem for me? You have no idea who I am, no idea what my background is, yet you think you have the best product for me. I'm not going to connect with you. No, thanks.
Well, a lot of times I get in LinkedIn connection requests, and I'll look at the request, and I know that there's going to be a sales pitch coming. And literally, I'll set the timer on my phone, and I go, okay, this one looks like they're going to message me within about 10 minutes. So I'm like, okay, let's do the countdown and wait for the timer. And majority of the time, they send me a message before the alarm goes off, and I'm like, really? It's like, and even the point where it's like, we have this, I just got one the other day about, we have this healthcare app that we think is going to be great for your organization. It's like, I haven't worked in healthcare in almost 3 years. Like, that's great, but you're wasting your time. I'm a healthcare user once again, not in the industry. So appreciate that, but it's not the right fit. But thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's, with LinkedIn, it's intentional. It's like, okay, you look at somebody that could be a connection where either you think there could be a mutual benefit to know each other, or somebody that would be good to refer business to or get expertise from on a variety of different subjects. And one of the things I love doing is, someone comes to me with an issue. If I can't help them, I'm pretty sure I know somebody that can, either closely or in my connections. And it's like, well, I don't know this, but here's 6 people that I know that I've talked to directly that can help with that. I had a case with that the other day with somebody where they were looking, and they asked me about some PR work, and I know a ton of PR people, but but it wasn't a case, well, here, talk to this person and this person. I asked them, another level of questioning, going, okay, what are you looking for out of this? What kind of work do you want done? And they said that. I'm like, okay, this person actually focuses on that a little bit more than this other person, so I'm going to introduce you to them. And they hit it off, and they're going to work together. And I did it out of, there you go, it's great. Now I should hit that person up for a referral fee, but that's another conversation for another day. But no, I don't.
It'll come back to you.
It will come back to me 1,000-fold, and
100%.
that's that I recognize on. Now, if they set up something and they say, okay, we want to set this up, I'm fine with that, but I won't do it just to do it. I won't email blast everybody. It's like, here, go with this and get your your $97 thing. I think we're all nauseated by that stuff now. So for me, it's like, if I know something is going to benefit somebody that they have asked me about, then yeah, I'll make that introduction, but I'm not going to just refer people, because it wastes everybody's time. And
Right.
it's not a good relationship thing. It damages my relationship with that individual potential. It's like, why did you refer me to those bozos? Because all they want to do is upsell me on funnel this and funnel that, and all they want to do is funnel all the money out of my wallet. And I'm like, no, that wasn't the intent. But it's all about relationships, and it's all about helping people out. So since you wrote the book, what are some things that came to light after you released it into the wild, and some discoveries and people, how they reacted to the book, and some lessons to learn from it?
I guess that the biggest lesson I've learned, I've got great feedback on the exercises in there. One thing I want to add is another level of an assessment. So it's interesting, when I roughly 2 months ago, I kind of had this aha moment, like, hey, dummy, why are you not coaching? You've been in coaching your whole life. You've been in leadership roles your whole life. You've been a successful salesperson your whole life. You have a story. You wrote a book. But for some reason, light bulb wasn't going off, and I never wasn't looking to start my own business. And then I just had this, yeah, why wouldn't I? And then I met a couple of great coaches. Had him Andrew Moss actually in Toronto, and great guy. And I was kind of going back and forth on, because I felt like the pressure as a coach, like, how do I need to go get certified? And he's like, no, you are certified. You wrote a book. You were an elite seller for over 20 years. That's your certification. Now go. Get out of my face. And it would need like this little nice punch in the face of, you're right. And so, like, for me, I'm super excited about just sharing that message, helping sales leaders motivate their teams better, helping explore ways to truly bring clarity to your messaging as a sales organization, which I think is a big gap. Like, if you randomly polled 4 departments and said, hey, what problem do we solve? And give me 2 really good case studies that we've done for our customers, majority of companies would fail at that question. And so, like, from that, and from just this intense networking I've been doing for the last 2 months, coaching opportunities are coming, and I had another one this morning, which has been fun. And I want to thank a guy named Andy Parks, who's a professor at Central Washington University, who shared a book with me called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And this book was so timely for me, because this is the first time in my life or career where I wasn't so goal outcome focused. Like I had to be number one in my company. I had to get a book out. I had to start a podcast. I had to do it. It was, to me, what I'm just surrendering right now to life is life's flow. And I'm surrendering to the fact of I want to meet as many people as I can, learn about them who are like-minded, and what questions can I ask them that allows them to either help get unstuck, or how can I help them just refer people to them. And it's just by doing that over the 2 months, it's been amazing the number of people who've come back to me like the boomerang, and I'm out of the woodwork. And we talked about the comment earlier, but I think it's when you have that servant mindset that it's not just about you. And to quote Maya Angelou about, it's not what you said or why you said it, but how you said it makes people feel when you leave the room. That's what I'm about right now. And that's, I think, the opportunities that it's been super humbling just to hear the feedback, and the reviews on Amazon have been humbling. But I think there's a gap where sales organizations and companies are looking for it. You don't have to be an a-hole to be good in business. You actually can treat people with respect. You can do it the right way. You can have patience. You can lead with humility and vulnerability. And those are what I'm passionate about. And I'm just excited to talk to companies and sales organizations to help share some wisdom that people have shared with me, and how I can apply it, and how I have applied it for over 20 years in the services industry.
I think too, even with the pandemic going on, organizations, the right ones anyway, or I should say the right ones, but the smart ones, are looking within and going, okay, this is an opportunity for us to do things differently and approach our clients and their needs in a different way than what we've done before, because these types of situations can be humbling to individuals and organizations alike. Like, okay, well, we just got kicked down again. And for many people, we remember the economic recession from 08, 09, 010, and for some organizations, they're just kind of recovering from that. And okay, let's shut everything down in March, please. Okay, great. And now they're like, okay, now what? And they've got the dynamics of, what does our workforce look like? Do we want to have working from home be more permanent? Do we want to have a hybrid? What does this all look like? And for the outside salespeople, they're like, well, we're always out on the road. This isn't anything new. But on the other side, it's like, we do like going into the office to meet with people, and now we can't go in there, so now we have to navigate through this. And there's all these dynamics of how work looks. But one of the things I'm not hearing enough of is, what do our clients need from us right now? We're trying to figure out, how do we work? How do we work? It's like, what do your clients need from you? Have you asked? Why don't you ask them? Ask them that question. What do you need from us? They may not know. Mm-hmm. And that's when you have a conversation. Say, well, what about this? And if you know your customer, then you know their typical challenges that they've had in the past. And it's okay, has anything changed around this? What about this? What about this? And earlier today, I interviewed a guy that runs an organization that does a lot of virtual event stuff. They've got, software and technology and whatnot to make conferences that were in person more virtual, and all kinds of tools and bells and whistles that this thing offers. And they saw an opportunity, because that wasn't their original premise of their organization, but they were able to pivot almost instantly to reach out to the events that they were helping before and say, okay, what about this? Why don't we try this? And again, it's that relationship and the conversations to help those organizations and the vendor to figure out, what can we do? And the key thing that I've noticed, not in grocery stores, but in business and working with people, at this point anyway, there's a lot more patience and understanding that I'm seeing in the variety of sectors than before. Yeah. Because we're all going through this.
Well, I was going to say that's you got two different groups of people that COVID's going to impact from a business perspective. You're going to get the people who said, man, I can't do my job because COVID shut me down, and I'm stuck, I'm screwed, and then there's something. And so it's woe is me, this stuff, and it does suck. It sucks for all of us. However, there's going to be another group of people that say, okay, well, this sucks. How can I pivot? What can I do differently? Complaining about it's not going to change me. And so, there's a great quote by Tony Bennett, who's a basketball coach at Virginia. He says, adversity is life's golden ticket. And when I heard that, it spoke to my heart, because I think back to all the struggles I've been through, and I'm like, yeah, like if I didn't go through that, this doesn't happen. And I was just talking to my son right before we jumped on. I was rebounding for him at the basketball court. And he had like an amazing shooting day yesterday. And then today he was off and he was kind of getting frustrated. I said, listen, the more frustrated you get, the worse you're going to be. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad about yourself, but like just keep getting frustrated, keep throwing a temper tantrum as a 14-year-old. It's going to get worse. Or say, you know what? I'm a good shooter. I'm a great shooter. I had a great shot yesterday. Today's not my day, but I'm going to bounce out of it. Like, tell yourself to be positive. And again, I don't think companies realize the power of positivity enough, talk about it enough, and how much that can shape just the momentum of a sales organization, because it's that constant pressure of, I got to do more. I got to do this. I have to do that. And which turns you transactional and away from relationships. And that's why I think it's important to have this message out there right now, because customers don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? I can't say that enough to people. I can't say it enough to myself right now.
Well, the rebound story reminded me of in fifth and sixth grade, I played basketball, and I remember a couple of the kids, the point guards, Brian, one of them, similar situation, was always good shooting, and then in a game, for some reason, I mean, he was just, it was bad. It was atrocious. It was like, did he break his hand or something? What's going on? And he was getting really frustrated and all that. And then during, halftime, and then they came back out in practice, and Coach Ziegler said, Brian, all I want you to do is layups. Don't shoot from the perimeter. Don't drive, anything. Just stand over there, bounce it off the backboard, have it go in the net. And Brian did that. And he said, I want you to do it, as many times as you can before, the whistle blows and we have to start playing. So he did that. So basically, Brian recognized, I can still make a basket. The second half was much better. He made more shots. It was just a subtle shift. It was a confidence booster. It's like, you're going to have a bad day, but at least you could do this, so that way I can still make a basket in life. Now, of course, he never did that exercise with me because I couldn't hit a barn if it was 2 feet away from me. But that was the end of my basketball career. I was a little bit better in baseball, but not much. But needless to say, thankfully, I was good with numbers and payment accountant, and was anyway. Long story short, but at the end of the day, it's just one of those things, and figuring out, okay, getting that confidence back and understanding, hey, we're all going to have these challenging days. It's not all smooth sailing, and it's a second sailing reference. I think I heard a Jimmy Buffett song earlier. It's probably why it came to mind. But anyway, at the end of the day, I think we all know that it boils down to just seeking to understand, communicating, figuring out what works best for everybody to increase that win-win attitude with things. Because if you go in with a win-win where no one feels like they were shortchanged or didn't get a decent deal and everyone's happy, it just makes the experience so much better.
Yeah, 100%. Could agree more.
Awesome. Loved our conversation today. Where can people find out more about you in this book? And before we even do that, let me circle back real quick. You've got a podcast as well. We didn't even dive into that. So what's the podcast about?
Well, it's because we're relationship passionate people, and that's why it's all of a sudden 30 minutes flies by. So yeah, I'll be quick. So a podcast is kind of a play on words. I played quarterback in college, and so the podcast is called the Quarterback Dadcast, and it's a podcast for dads. And I feel like there's a gap there too. So I am bringing awareness, and I'm bringing conversations to light with dads of all likes, stay-at-home dads, working dads, anything you can think of. And I'm having them tell their stories of how they grew up, what they're grateful for as a father, understanding their gaps, challenges that they've had, areas they've messed up, and what they're doing to be self-aware about ways to become a better father, so that other dads who are listening at home can become better quarterbacks of their own household. So about episode 25 launches Thursday, July 9th. And big news, actually, we just got our first sponsor, which was super humbling. I felt like someone believed in my lemonade stand. And it's Catch Sitka Seafoods. They're a fishing company out of Sitka, and they've been super supportive of me. And for any of your listeners or people at home, if they use the promo code QB, DADAK, you can get 15% off a fish, which is off the charts good. And but it's but people want to hear stories of other dads, and you want to learn about probably the same problems that you have at home. We're all on this journey of fatherhood together. We're just trying to become the best dad we can be, so we keep kids out of jail, sarcastically, and just create great human beings who are going to be great fathers, leaders, people in their communities. So we keep improving the world.
Yeah, and it has a ripple effect that goes on for generations. That's all it takes is, changing the tide and, making sure that you give your kids the best upbringing you can give them, life lessons and growth. So congratulations on that show and the sponsorship too. That is definitely a lemonade stand moment. Or, for me when I was a kid selling baseball cards at a baseball card show, it was like, wow, somebody actually gave me money for something. And that was a wonderful experience to learn. So, and where can people find out about your book as well?
Yeah, so I think the best way to just go to my website, which is Casey Jacox, so CASEYJACOX.com. You can find more about my podcast, my book, my coaching. You can also find me on LinkedIn, which is Casey Jacox. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram's Casey Jacox9 or at the QB Dadcast. But yeah, I'm very active on social media and I'd love to connect. So if there's people who are listening that have found value in what we're talking about, Michael, I'd love to connect and see how we can try to help each other.
No, that's awesome. And I'll have that information in the show notes. So Casey, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you in this amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much. I'm humbled to hear that. Have a good day.
You too.